Trump crossed the line, taunting Obama about the past and tossing out old lies. But Obama didn't take the bait. He replied with a question that turned the whole hearing on its head. The morning arrived as it typically does in Washington, D.C. A brisk wind blowing across the marble steps of the Capitol. Cameras being positioned outside and reporters standing shoulder to shoulder waiting for history to be made. But within that great hall, something much greater was being conjured up. It was the day on which Barack Obama and President Donald Trump would directly confront one another in front of the country to discuss the truth. The truth of America. The hall was packed well before 10 o'clock. Tables of senators, advisors, and witnesses sat quietly, their eyes fastened on the two chairs in the middle. Each whisper seemed to reverberate against the high ceilings. The hum of expectation was unprecedented. Even those with years of experience as political players appeared nervous, as if they were going to witness a storm meet another storm. Obama arrived first. He moved deliberately near silently with a folder of notes held in hand. He didn't have to open his mouth for the room to listen. His mere presence did that. He sat down, arranged his papers neatly on his desk, and stared ahead. His face was serene, nearly contemplative, the sort of serenity that results from self-assurance, not arrogance. A short while later, the doors opened once more. Trump arrived with his staff by his side. His walk was quick, his chin set high. He waved at some individuals, nodding as he greeted familiar friends. The instant he sat down across from Obama, the whole room shifted. The air thickened. The den receded. Two men who had both occupied the same office. Two men with fundamentally divergent visions for the country now facing each other on for years. The tension between them had accumulated subtly through speeches, interviews, and political wars waged from afar. But now all those words had brought one to this room. No distance today. Only questions, answers, and whatever truths that would emerge in between. The moderator started with a statement. Today's hearing is on the present state of America, its progress, its challenges, and its future. Obama nodded politely. Trump leaned back and folded his arms. It was a small action, but it said a lot. They both knew this was not going to be easy. Reporters at the back looked at each other. Even they did not know how this would turn out. Some anticipated sparks, others anticipated restraint, but all anticipated one thing. No one knew what would happen when two of the most powerful figures of contemporary American politics were under one roof. With the entire world waiting, the atmosphere was so tense it seemed palpable. Each little noise was magnified. The turning of a pen, the rustle of papers, even the distant hum of the air conditioning. It was as if the whole building was suspended in its breath. A senator in front of him leaned over and whispered to a friend, "This is going to be one for the history books." And it was. Obama edged his microphone a little to one side. His actions were deliberate, smooth. He took a small swig of water, then glanced across the table at Trump. Their eyes flashed for an instant, not with anger, but recognition. Both men knew exactly what this moment was. This had nothing to do with politics or public opinion. This was about truth, the unyielding sort that doesn't compromise to power or popularity. Trump flashed a small smile, the sort that meant nothing at all. Confidence, defiance, perhaps amusement. He tapped his fingers on the table, waiting. The tension between them crackled. The moderator addressed Obama first. "Mr. Obama, you have the floor." Obama nodded, pulled out his folder, and scanned his notes, although everyone in the room could see that he didn't truly need them. He already knew what he was going to say. But before speaking, he gazed out at the audience, at the senators' faces, the staffers, a handful of members of the public who had somehow secured seats. His face relaxed slightly, almost contemplative. He was, it seemed, considering the America he had once ruled, the America to which he remained deeply devoted, and the America that now sat divided in front of him. Trump observed him intently, a subtle impatience visible in the way he drummed his pen against the desk. He wished to speak, to reply, to direct the flow of the conversation, but for the moment he stood back. Obama leaned forward at last, his voice even, but firm enough to be heard across the hall. "Thank you," he started. "Before we start throwing around numbers, policies, or arguments, I want to say something simple. Honesty." That single word, honesty, resonated through the room. A few others shifted positions. Trump's drumming ceased. Obama went on, "We can't repair what we won't acknowledge, and we can't claim to be strong if we conceal our frailties beneath slogans or applause lines." It wasn't an attack. It was a statement, but one that was heavy with meaning. Trump's face remained impassive, but his body shifted. He leaned forward a little, ready to fire back when it became his turn. As Obama testified, it was evident that this was not going to be the same kind of hearing the Senate had ever seen. This wasn't political anymore. It was something more. A confrontation between two men who viewed America from completely different perspectives. Somewhere in the back of the room, a reporter took out a pen and wrapped a note around her arm that summed up the mood exactly. This isn't just a hearing. It's a mirror being held up to power. By the time Obama had completed his opening lines, the tension in the room had become something nearly electric. A combination of admiration and wonder, curiosity, and silent doubt. Nobody had an idea what Trump would say. But one thing was for sure. The stage was set for one of the most dramatic showdowns Washington had ever witnessed. When Obama started talking, the room became silent. His tone was gentle at first, but it had the sort of power that wouldn't require volume. Each word was spoken with an air of careful selection, as if each sentence had a point to make. "America," he started, "is still the best country in the world. But being great isn't something we inherit. Being great is something we demonstrate over and over." He paused for a brief moment, allowing the silence to hang. We can't just keep repeating that everything is fine when far too many people are still finding it hard to get through each day. The words fell heavily. Some nodded in silence, others appeared uncomfortable. Obama's tone was not hot, but it was uncompromisingly honest. He talked as a teacher might to a class that needed to be told the truth, even if it hurt a little. He went on, "Families all across this country are working harder than ever and still falling behind. The cost of living goes up, but wages don't. Healthcare is still unaffordable for millions. And while the wealthiest few get richer, too many Americans find themselves wondering if the dream we speak of still belongs to them." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The emotion came in the form of the truth itself. He leaned forward slightly, sweeping the room. "We can't keep ignoring the warning signs. Our planet is heating up. Storms are getting stronger. Fires burn longer. These aren't opinions. They're facts. Yet, we keep acting like they'll fix themselves." Trump shifted in his seat, but Obama didn't glance at him. His eyes were on the message, not the man. "Division is on the rise." Obama continued. "We see it in our neighborhoods, in our schools, and our homes. We've let rage take the place of understanding. We've begun to think that yelling is the same as leading." Those words stung. You could feel the quiet ripple move through the room. Even those who disagreed with him couldn't help but see what he was painting. Everyone had seen it. The increasing tension between neighbors, the endless arguments online, the way people had begun to view each other as enemies rather than fellow citizens. "Leadership," Obama said, "isn't about pretending problems don't exist. It's about being brave enough to confront them heat-and, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable." He spoke in the calm of a man who had already lived through political wars, personal attacks, and constant criticism, yet had never allowed bitterness to replace grace. He began naming what he referred to as America's real challenges. The gap between the rich and the working class is widening. Our healthcare system still leaves too many people behind. Young people are incurring more debt than ever before. Our planet, our common home, is crying out for care, and above all, we're losing our sense of unity. That sense of belief that we rise or fall together. He paused, glancing down for a brief moment, as if collecting his next thought, then went on. "The measure of a great nation isn't how loud it celebrates its success. It's how honestly it faces its failures." It was quiet enough to hear a pen drop. Even those who came prepared to disagree found themselves listening, drawn in by his composure. Obama's tone never turned dramatic. His words flowed with rhythm. His sentences short and sharp, like the beats of a steady drum. He didn't speak like a politician. He spoke like someone who still believed in the power of people to do better, if only they were willing to see clearly. He said, "We keep telling ourselves that everything's fine, but that's like a doctor telling a patient that they're healthy without taking the tests. We can't fix what we won't acknowledge is broken." Some of the faces in the room relaxed. Others were taught. Trump did not move, arms crossed, lips pursed. Obama's calmness made him only more agitated. Obama persisted. Struggle is not something to be ashamed of. Only shame is in disregarding it. If we are to lead the world, then we must lead by example by being honest, kind, and responsible. He paused for a moment as if allowing the significance of that message to penetrate. Then he looked directly ahead once more because leadership isn't showmanship. It's being a servant, not a dictator. To speak to people what they have to hear rather than what they wish to hear. They were captivated. Even the soft scratch of pens taking down the words had ceased. He continued talking about how America's problems weren't left and right, but truth and denial. If we pretend our debts don't exist, our storms will rage on. Our divisions will grow. We're just postponing the pain. We can't keep painting over cracks and calling it strength. Eventually, cracks turn into breaks. Then his tone softened. I still believe in the promise of this country. I always have. I believe in the single mother working 2 jobs who still finds time to help her kids with homework. I believe in the farmer who wakes up before dawn to feed others before feeding himself. I believe in every person who keeps doing what's right even when nobody's watching. The authenticity of his tone filled the auditorium. It was not the kind of speech designed to win points or headlines. It was the kind designed to remind people of what they should care about. America is not failing, Obama declared. But America stands at a fork in the road. We can keep on pretending all is well, or we can look in the mirror and begin to mend what ain't. He paused, then spoke softly. The path to progress begins with truth. For a long silence after he was done, no one said anything. The quiet was dense, the sort that occurs only when individuals are compelled to consider what they've just been told. Then the moderator nodded, thanked him, and faced Trump. The room's attention turned, but the resonance from Obama's words remained like a heartbeat. Everyone felt it. This was not a speech. It was a whispered defiance, a mirror to power, and a reminder that the uncomfortable truth is always the best basis for a nation. As soon as Obama finished, a silence hung in the air like a held breath. His words had hit hard, not as an assault, but as a mirror. They illuminated truths which nobody could easily refute. For a moment, it was as if even time itself had halted. But then gradually the silence was shattered as President Donald Trump cleared his throat and leaned into the microphone. He lost no time. His voice rang out firm, resounding through the hall. Well, he started. That was some speech. A very nice speech. Really very emotional, but it's also entirely wrong. Some muted laughter emanated from the back of the room, the sort that follows confidence rather than humor. Trump smirked, noticing the focus moving toward him. His voice was brassy, near playful, but the bite in his words conveyed unmistakable force. He said, "You speak of problems, Barack. I speak of results. You speak of fears. I speak of success. That is the difference between you and me." Trump shifted back a little, his self-assurance filling the room. "When I took office, the economy was disintegrating. Folks were losing hope. And now, America's stronger than it's ever been. Jobs are higher. Businesses are booming. The stock market is setting records. Folks have money in their pockets once more." He spoke rapidly, beat-like as if reciting evidence that did not require explanation. Each sentence was spoken with passion, half pride, half defiance. "We've rebuilt this nation piece by piece," he said. "And while there are those who'd like to keep dwelling on the negatives, I'd rather bask in the positives. That's leadership." He stopped, surveying the room, seeing heads turn, cameras flash. "You speak of division," he went on. "But I can tell you, this nation has never been more united behind one sentiment. America first, and that's what I've done." Trump's confidence increased with each sentence. It was the type of speech he enjoyed, with momentum, rapid-fire points, and words that were like punches. "You tell people they're having a hard time," he said. "But examine the numbers. Examine the energy, the enthusiasm. Visit any small town, any company. People tell me on a daily basis how much improved things are now. They're proud once more. They believe in America once more." He swept his arm toward the crowd, his voice firm and persuasive. "You speak about global warming, Barack. Certainly, the weather fluctuates. It's been changing for millions of years. But I'm not going to shut down jobs and destroy industries because of panic. That's not leadership. That's weakness. A few murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the room. Trump caught it and pressed forward. You mentioned the national debt, but let me remind you, your administration added trillions to it. Trillions? And you're lecturing me about responsibility? He grinned nearly triumphantly. We're better than ever. We're respected once more. The world knows we mean business. America is back, stronger, and richer than it's ever been. Some nodded, others frowned, but nobody looked away. Trump had a way of commanding attention, of using his words as a display of power. Even his detractors had to agree. He knew how to own the moment. He went on, every nation has problems. But winners and losers are distinguished by how they react. I don't sit around complaining about issues. I solve them. I negotiate. I produce results. That's what I was sent here to do. His tone hardened just a little. Barack, you've had 8 years to improve this nation. 8 years. And here we are. You're still discussing the same issues. If you didn't correct them, then why should anyone hear you now? The dig was obvious. Trump was simply shifting the attention back to Obama, challenging not his message, but his record. Obama didn't simply sit there, his face still. But the crowd sensed the turn. Trump had shifted from being on the defensive to being on the attack, from responding to acting. You speak of honesty, Trump asserted, simply raising his voice. But I label it negativity. You're painting America as if it's broken. It's not. It's prospering. You're saying people are divided. They're not divided. They're just fed up with being told everything is bad when it isn't. He smiled again, this time near softly. People need hope. They need confidence. They need to be told they're winning because they are. I've provided that. And then with a flick of his wrist, he went on. And let's not forget, you said manufacturing jobs were lost forever. Remember that? You said those days were behind us. Well, guess what? They're back. We brought them back because I have faith in this country's workers more than you ever did. The air was charged. Each sentence hung like a punch. Every word so carefully chosen to undermine Obama's calm rhetoric of realism. Trump paused, staring Obama straight in the eye, and said, You see problems. I see opportunities. You see obstacles. I see victories. That's the difference. America doesn't need speeches about what's wrong. It needs leadership that keeps winning. He smoothed out his papers, though he didn't appear to need them. So, when you speak of honesty, I'll continue speaking of success because that's what Americans are concerned about. They don't need another lecture. They need results, and that's what I provide. He leaned in closer to the microphone and concluded, You may have your speeches, Barack. I'll continue making America great. The words rang out like a parting punchline. For an instant, there was no response, no clapping, no liquor, no huddling together, just quiet. It was not the quiet of boredom, but of incredul. Obama's tempered truth and Trump's hot pride had collided heedin. Two visions of America now lingered in the air. One based on responsibility and truth, the other strength and hope. The hearing was hardly finished, but the lines had been drawn. Obama had asked for self-reflection. Trump had replied with defiance, and all the people present in the room knew one thing. The next few minutes would determine which America the world would remember. The atmosphere inside the hearing room was charged after Trump's incendiary reply. His words still hung in the air, bold and cutting, looming over all like electricity before a storm. The contrast between the two men couldn't have been starker. One spoke hot and strong, the other coolly precise. All eyes went to Barack Obama. Everyone wondered if he would strike back or allow Trump's bravado to go unchallenged. Obama inhaled quietly, then leaned forward fractionally toward the microphone. His voice was steady, unflappable. Mr. President, he replied, I value your passion, but leadership is not a performance. It's not announcing you've won while not paying attention to the scoreboard. The words fell softly, but they had substance. The mood changed in an instant. Trump's grin wavered for an anaconda, but then came back more contrived this time. Obama persisted, and his words measured deliberate. You declared America to be thriving. He continued, But most Americans are still one paycheck from losing everything.
You reported jobs are back, but thousands of families continue to be buried in debt.
You reported the nation was united, but each day we witness greater hate, greater anger, greater division. Trump sat back in his chair, lips compressed. Obama's voice was not antagonistic. It leads people to stop asking questions, to stop demanding truth. That word truth cut through the air like a blade. Trump's fingers tapped against the desk once, twice. His jaw tightened. Finally he spoke. Barack, I've heard you lecture America for years. He spat, his voice harder now. You speak about truth, but you were never truthful with this nation. You polarized people. You made us weaker, and now you stand before me and pretend as if you are the one who should be teaching me about leadership. The serenity on Obama's face did not falter. Leadership isn't about you or me, he responded. It's right. Trump moved in closer to the microphone, his voice literally sneering. Right. You're talking about right and wrong, but let me tell you, were you right when you didn't reveal your past to the American people? Were you right when you wouldn't produce your actual birth records? I don't think you had the right to even call yourself president. Gasps erupted around the room. It was an old assault, one that most believed had gone to its grave years ago. To revive it here now seemed a chosen blow, a personal cutting one far beneath the plane of policy discourse. Obama didn't blink. His calm itself appeared to defy the tumult surrounding him. We're not here to rehash conspiracy theories, Mr. President, he murmured. We're here to discuss America. But Trump wasn't done. His voice increased in volume. You're the one discussing honesty, Barack. Perhaps begin by being honest about you. You've made a career out of playing cool and playing noble, but we know that you are a fake. The word cut through the hushed room. Some of the audience gasped, others dropped their heads. Obama's eyes never left him. He stared at Trump for a very long time. Not raging, not defensive, just intent. Then, with a coolness that seemed almost to be disarming, he replied, If you wish to discuss honesty, let us begin with something basic. Trump scowled. What do you mean by that? Obama cocked his head to the side, his voice still even. Is Ivanka Barron's mother at yes or no? The question struck like lightning. No one appeared to grasp what had been said for a second. Then the implication struck and the room went completely silent. Trump's face set. His eyes narrowed. That is a silly question, he said. Silly. Obama's voice remained even. It's not complex, Mr. President. It's yes or no. Trump shifted in his chair. That is none of your business. He snapped. You're attempting to deflect from your own shortcomings. But Obama didn't let up. You speak about leadership. You speak about truth. I'm merely requesting specificity. Trump's voice became more heated. This hearing is concerning America, not my family. Obama nodded. Precisely. And how a leader treats truth, particularly uncomfortable truth, reflects everything about the manner in which he leads. The tension was excruciating. Now Trump's aide shared anxious glances. Journalists strained not to breathe so loudly. It was no longer about a conflict of politics. It was personal now. Painfully so. Extremely personal. Trump's face reened. You're crossing a line, Barack, he accused. This is cheap. This is beneath you. Obama didn't flinch. What's beneath any of us? He whispered his finding that we represent truth while abandoning it. For an instant, no one moved. The words hung there, not only in the room but in every ear. Trump prepared to answer, his mouth open, but closed it, clenching his jaw. He pushed back in his chair, cold eyes, tight-lipped. Obama did not look victorious. He did not grin. He merely sat in silence, hands clasped together, face calm and inscrutable. The quiet hung on. The instant had a weight to it like the air before rain. Everybody in the room understood they had just seen something beyond argument, something genuine, something real. It was no longer about the question itself. It was about what the question symbolized, the willingness or the inability to confront truth head-on. In that moment, the hearing ceased being politics, polls, or speeches. It was something much more human, a test of honesty, bravery, and pride. Trump's swagger had been broken, if only briefly. Obama had not yelled, had not abused. He had merely posed one question, and that question had changed the whole dynamic in the room. By the time the moderator restored order, everyone was aware that the discussion had become history. What started out to be a debate on policy had become a moment that disclosed something more. How truth, no matter how small the question, can shake up the most powerful man on earth. That silence that came after Obama's question was deafening. It wasn't the usual type. It was about how silence can be louder than words and how an evasion of response can speak volumes more than 1,000 orations. Over the coming days, analysts, historians, and common mortals would replay the scene repeatedly, trying to find depth in the most minute details. Obama's immobility, Trump's delay, the question itself. But in reality it was easy. It was a reflection that leadership is not based on who can yell the loudest or who can triumph in an argument. Leadership is based on who can stand before the world and bear difficult truth without fleeing. Obama's question didn't just disturb a man. It disturbed a picture. It stripped away the facade of performance that politics so frequently relies upon. And for a fleeting instant, the world glimpsed something unvarnished. The strength of truth, the price of pride, and the soft power of keeping one's head when the tempest howls hottest. That moment would be remembered not as the argument, but for the silence that succeeded it. The sort of silence that does not dissipate when the room is cleared, but hangs about, posing its own question. When truth comes knocking, who will dare to open the